Are you somebody that's battling with addiction, or maybe you're a family member seeing your loved one go down the destructive path that you see no hope of them ever changing?
Well, we're here to share stories of addiction to success and what that looks like. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Justin.
And this is the Hope Shot. So this episode is going to be a lot about Justin's story. I have my own story, and then we have a story together of our relationship through recovery. And Justin, go ahead and tell me a little bit of how long you were an addict and where did it all start for you?
So I started when I was 12 years old. Started dabbling into alcohol and drugs. I got clean at 35. So 23 years of my life I was an addict. It wasn't like that the whole time. Wasn't a full blown addict. There's levels of it.
Where do you think it kind of started? Like when your dad and mom kind of divorced?
Yes, my mom and my dad divorced when I was 10 years old.
And why was that?
My dad was an alcoholic, and he was abusive, and my mom just had enough of it, and she left him and moved to my grandma's.
And that's when you came to Pasco from West Palm Beach.
Yeah, that's when I moved to Pasco County, and we lived with my grandma, and
Your mom met your stepdad?
Yeah, my mom met my stepdad, which is even worse than my dad because he was a full-blown addict and alcoholic. He was very abusive. My mom, one thing she suffered from was codependency. That was her drug.
She needed a man to be with.
Yeah, to feel like she was whole.
Your stepdad, Michael, so he was worse than your real dad. Was he an alcoholic as well?
He was an alcoholic and a drug addict. Yeah, he's the one who introduced me to real drugs. I mean, I was dabbling in pot and alcohol. Back then, pot was like, the gateway.
Right.
Alcohol to me is the gateway. I think alcohol is the most underrated drug of them all. My stepdad's the one that introduced me to shooting up, meth. I mean, you name it.
No, it started with drinking around him, and then that's when he felt comfortable enough to introduce you to those types of things.
Yeah, he would give me a beer here and there, and we'd smoke weed together, and then it transpired from there. And I believe that his addiction got worse over the progression of it because that's what happened to me.
Right, and that's where the party life, you, your brother, your sister, your mom, all of your friends that all of you had were all just a big, huge party.
Yeah, because that's what you attract. When you're in that lifestyle, that's what you attract. But my whole life, we didn't know any other way. So that's what we're accustomed to.
So during this time, while you're all partying, of course, there was the abuse going on with Michael. I mean, I know you told me that he had physically abused you and your sisters.
It was mostly my mom he physically abused, but he also, yes, he abused me, my sister, my brother. One time he was drunk and he was beating my mom, my sister. I mean, when I'm talking about abuse, my mom had multiple skull fractures. There was multiple times that he shot the bed. He was just a violent guy. And abusing my mom and my sister, he was on top of my sister and I hear her scream. So I ran in and kicked him off of her. And that night he almost killed me. He threw a metal bar like this close to my head. And I never went back. I lived on the streets from then on out.
So that's kind of when you became homeless. You became, a part of the street lifestyle of stealing and doing whatever you had to do to survive your day-to-day homeless life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, we hung out with people that were in the same boat with dysfunctional families, people that, their parents didn't really care. So we fit in well with them.
And then that's when it brought you to age 16. You were working with, was it James's dad, Jake? And
first I got arrested and got in trouble.
Okay.
Because of living on the streets. I mean,
so being homeless got you arrested, doing bad stuff.
Yeah, we were stealing cars. The guys I was hanging out with, they were robbing cars. They were stealing cars. And I got arrested a bunch of times, and finally, the judge sentenced me to Pinellas County boot camp. And I went from there to a boys' village, and then I graduated from there and went back to my mom's at 16. I think I just turned 16, or right before I turned 16. And we went right back to the same crap. But this time, my mom wasn't living with Michael. She left him, but my mom declined because of it. Her codependency, that's her addiction. She didn't have that. So what happens? You go into a depression and go downward.
Right.
So she just drank all the time.
And that's when you kind of found yourself, you wanted to get a job because you had passed boot camp and you wanted to do a little something different.
Well, I wanted a job because, like, I mean, we didn't have money. We were on Section 8. We were, food stamps, you name it. We didn't have money. So I didn't have clothes, didn't have socks. We had to wash our socks and, like, try to come up with money for the laundry, but we didn't have enough socks to wash. So
right.
I was like, I'm never going to be broke again. I was like, I'm getting a job and I'm going to freaking work.
Okay, so what was your first job?
It was doing trees.
Doing trees.
I would work for my best friend now. His dad owned a tree service, and I found out through his cousin that he was hiring, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I started doing trees.
Money.
Started making money, but the partying didn't stop. We kind of segregated it to the weekend, but sometimes it'll funnel into the week.
Right. And so then, after working with Jake trees, I know you were excited to buy clothes and socks and all the things that you hadn't had. What kind of brought you to the next job?
So the job that I actually still do today, there was this guy living down the street that he was doing apartment repair. He was doing a rehab of a huge complex of apartments. And he's like, I need some people. And Jake's like, I guess we were slow at the time doing trees. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So I went and worked with him. He taught me how to paint. I know how to run a sprayer, cut in. We did texturing. We did drywall. We did tile, doors, whatever. Pretty much everything inside of an apartment we did.
Okay. So you're working in drywall with Phil, and you have your new apartment with your new girlfriend. And where did your drywall business start up? I know you told me at 21.
Yeah, so I got really good at drywall. I left Phil because he was tired of my shit. I didn't show up to work, drinking, drugging, partying all night, and people get tired of your shit. Yeah. So I went from there. I went to another drywall place and I got really good at it. And by 21, I was like, screw this. I can do this on my own. I could start my own business. And me and my brother started our business. My grandma helped us. Okay. And, we pretty much started doing J&S drywall. And we did that, not successfully. We thought it was successful.
Right. You were doing jobs and getting money.
Yeah, we were getting money to party. Right. That's all we did, party.
That's it. And then around, I think you said 24, 25 is when the business started to fail? Or?
Yeah, it was 2008.
Okay.
When all that stuff, the market crash of 2008 and the housing market crash, that's when everything went down. I didn't get no work. We couldn't pay bills. Electricity got turned off. Everything got turned off, and we were still partying. So what happens after that?
Girlfriend was cheating on you.
Girlfriend cheated on me. Lost everything.
Life
Life fell apart, but the partying didn't. It got
and then again,
ramped
you
up.
Went homeless, partying, and then you got arrested.
So, I became homeless, and that's where the drugs took a turn for the worse. That's when it went poof. The stocking market went poof. I went poof, and. That's when, it was a good idea to start being a junkie and start smoking dope and I lost so much hope for my life. Like there was no end to it. My life was a mess and I was a mess and I was like, this seems like a good idea. I want to escape reality so much that I was like, this seems like a good idea. And so that's when I started using the needle and it went from there, to when I got arrested for stealing. I was stealing from Home Depots. I was stealing from Walmarts. That was how I fueled my addiction. That's all I did. And
so once you were arrested around 27, you said that they gave you drug court at that time?
Yeah, so they gave me drug court at 27 because I got shoplifting charges and one was a grand theft. And so they gave me drug court. I tried to do it, but I wasn't successful because I was just trying to cheat the system. Okay. I was trying to get over on people. And that's all I was doing. I didn't take nothing seriously in my life. I was so wound up, using drugs for so long. It's like, how do you stop the cycle? How? it's hard to
You're
stop
still
that
in
cycle.
the mindset of cheating the system and cheating out people and living in your own way, doing
Yeah.
it your own way.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not gonna
my
tell
way.
me what to do.
Yeah, you're not gonna tell me. And then, but you know what's funny is that, like, if you really think about it, all you're doing is cheating yourself out of it. That's all you're doing. You're cheating yourself out of changing.
So once you
Got arrested. I did drug court. I
you
couldn't
failed
do it.
That's right.
Couldn't do drug court.
Violated.
So I violated, and I took jail time. After that, I got out, still doing the same crap. But I was like, oh, maybe if I move to my dad's, maybe I can change. Geographic move is like, we always think that it's if we just move somewhere else.
It's everybody else around me why I'm the way I am.
It's nobody else. It's not me. It's the environment. It's this place. It's Pasco County. But it's not Pasco County because I just brought myself to another place. I was supposed to go to my dad's, but I took because the girl I was with, she left me and she moved to Orlando. I was like, well, let me take a detour in Orlando. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll just stay here and get a job. And I did. I stayed and got a job. And I was like, well, if I stay here and I could change. I can get clean.
Okay.
It's a different place.
Yeah.
But I found the same crap because I didn't change anything about myself. I was still the same exact person, and I was still doing the same exact things because that was me.
Right.
It was embedded in me, and I was going to find the exact same stuff no matter where I went.
Right. So what kind of led you? I know you said you had decided to go to a Christian rehab.
Okay, so shit got bad in Orlando. So
Okay.
I was tired of it, man. I mean, there was
You were
times.
still drugging at that point.
Big
because
time.
You fell back into it.
Oh no, it got worse. And I remember one time I was using so much that I got off work. I mean, I worked the whole time I was doing stuff. I mean, that's how I supplied it. You know, I was doing drywall. And I got paid good money for doing drywall. So I went to I drove over to my buddy's house, and we were sitting in the driveway, and I was so fucked up from the day from using that I smoked weed with him, and I passed out.
Okay.
And I had the door open, and I woke up at like 3:00 in the morning, and my hands were frozen. It was in the middle of winter, and I don't know what woke me up, but I woke up and I was numb. I swear it was almost like hypothermia. And, thank God I did wake up, because then I went and defrosted my hands in a sink at home.
Okay.
And I'm laughing, but it's not funny. But now that I'm looking back at it in my life, and it's crazy to me to think that was my life.
Right.
It's insane.
So is that like a turning point? You waking up in the cold and you're like, I need to do something different. I don't want to live like this anymore.
There's so many times in my life when I'm like, I don't want to live like this, but it's almost like you don't know how to not live like that. How do you not? Yeah, it's the only thing I know how to do. I'm really good at fucking up. Yeah. I was a really good fuck up. I was a career fuck up. Yeah. And so finally I was like, I know somebody that their daughter went to a Christian rehab in Houston, Texas. Okay. And I was like, maybe it will work for me. Right. Maybe, just maybe. I had that little glimmer of hope. And so I packed my shit, and I took a one-way ticket from my dad, and I went there. And I stayed there for 6 months. And this is something that I've never done before. We weren't religious. We weren't in nothing. I mean, my grandma, she went to Catholic church and stuff like that, but we were not. And so doing praise and worship 3 times a day, doing Bible studies, you name it.
It's a huge change.
It's huge. And I could relate to most of it, because like dying to the old man, and I was like, oh man, like put old things away and be born in a new, Yeah. Right. So I was like, that's what I need. I want to be that guy. But then I went back to Orlando to her using still. Came back home to the same environment. So you pluck yourself out, get a little bit of clarity, and then you pluck yourself back in. And it's only a matter of time. There's no success in that when you're putting yourself right back in the same environment, thinking that maybe it'd be different this time. If I don't do this, or I do this different, blah, blah, blah.
So then when you went back to Orlando, came back to her home using, were you using then with her?
Yeah.
Pretty quickly?
It was pretty quick.
Yeah.
It was real quick.
Okay.
I didn't even stop smoking cigarettes at the time, too. I stopped smoking for at least 9 months.
Okay.
And so
You guys were using again in Orlando, and then at 29, you said you had gotten arrested.
Well, there for a little bit using, and then I just was like, her mom got tired of my shit.
Gotcha.
Don't blame her.
Right.
And so I moved back to my mom's. And my mom, I mean, our whole family, a bunch of users. We all use, I mean, that's just what it was. So I moved back to my mom's, and they were all using, so it fit right in. And so we were, you know, doing, and it just kept getting crazier and crazier, stealing, robbing, cheating.
And again, at this point, everybody, your family, your friends, you all were doing the same things together.
Same exact thing. You attract what you are.
Out.
You know, you attract what you are.
Right.
Period. Finally got arrested. This is the turning point, but it was stepping stones. And I'm gonna put a picture up of my last jail arrest picture, and it was September 20th of 2011 is my last time I got arrested for doing. It wasn't the last time I got arrested, but it was the last day of my worst time in my life of using. And then the rest is just stepping stones to where I am today.
So when you got arrested at 29, that was your first stepping stone in essence, because I know you had said you were staying with your boss at 10.
Yeah, well, this is, so I got arrested twice. I got arrested in August, and a month later I got arrested again.
Okay.
And I look back on the pictures, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, that's bad. And I didn't realize you can't see yourself from outside. You don't see yourself as looking like that. You see yourself as normal, just I'm using a little bit.
Right.
You can't see it. You know, I couldn't see my own shit. 29, got arrested for the last time, and I was like, man, I cannot do this anymore. My life is a freaking mess. I need something different. I need help.
Right.
So they offered me drug court again. I asked my old boss, please help me, you know, because I was working for him that day.
This is Phil, the drywall.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, please, can you help me? I can't go back to my family's. I have nowhere else to go. I need your help. And he said, if you want to live in a tent in the back of my house for a month, cool.
So you're living with Phil in his backyard in a tent.
Yeah. Yeah, so he let me stay there. I stayed there in the back of his house for a month. Just till I proved myself a little bit, and then he let me live with him.
Okay.
And I was still drinking, going out, partying, blah, 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 you know, just doing the same shit. So in 2011, we were planning for a New Year's Eve party, and, but, you know, I went out it was actually December 30th. I went out, we were drinking, me and my best friend, then we were trying to gallivant town, trying to find something to do. And we ended up at my mom's, and then my sister was out with some guy at his house, so we went there, and for some reason I was drinking tequila, and I just snapped, and I started fighting him because of things that my mom told me he was doing, and...
So you were trying to save your sister in your mind?
Yeah, in my mind, but because I was clean. So I went in there, and we started fighting, and I beat him up. He grabbed the knife. I got stabbed. Wound up. My best friend drove me to the hospital. I bled out. They had to give me a blood transfusion and stitched me up. I got stabbed. They said 9 times, but it was more like 6. And then, you know, but that didn't change anything. I was still drinking. I was more upset that I couldn't go to the New Year's Eve party because I was in ICU than anything else.
You didn't care that your life had literally almost just ended.
Yeah, it's crazy. And still then I was like, don't give me painkillers because they wanted to. I was like, I need non-narcotic. Yeah.
So still at that point, you were like, you were thinking you were good because you weren't doing pills, you weren't doing the hardcore stuff, you were just drinking. So you get out of the hospital. Yep,
I was just drinking, so it was good. So I got out of the hospital. Phil kicked me out. So I started living with my friends.
Again, he was done with the shit.
Started living with Jesse, and then we were drinking, and I got arrested a couple more times. That kept going.
And at that point, that's when they, again, appointed you drug court.
Yeah, well, I was in drug court beginning 2012. I started it. You know, I was still stabbed up. I didn't take anything seriously. I was like, I'm going to skate by this and do the exact same thing I did last time and try to beat the system.
So again, recovery was introduced to you and you weren't ready for it.
Yeah, it was introduced to me. I had to go to meetings, but I was just there to get my paper signed, and that was it, you know. So I actually was in drug court all the way up to 2013 when I graduated, but I only graduated by the skin on my teeth. by beating the system.
Right.
You know, but I was only cheating myself.
And then 2012 is when I met you.
Yep.
And I became part of the chaos of drinking and partying and.
Yep. Welcome.
Yeah.
So, and then
2013, I think.
2013.
You broke your leg.
Well, no, 2013 is when we had Jalen.
Right, Jalen.
We had Jalen in 2013, and things progressed from there. After I got off the drug court, Jalen was born shortly after that in October, and then things progressed from there. We started trying, bigger and better things.
Drugs.
We were dabbling in the harder core stuff, as far as like Molly and going to strip clubs and stuff like that. We were trying to live a normal life and still in the chaos.
Right.
And then we were at a Halloween party, and for some reason, I don't know how it happened, but I was messing with my friend, and we were just like, "What's up?" And I rolled my ankle in a hole, and I broke my leg. It was the most excruciating pain ever.
Ripped tendons,
ligaments. My big toe didn't work for a long time, and I was running a business, and it's a so-called business, and I need to go back to work. And so they prescribed me painkillers, and it was okay. It was okay because they prescribed them to me.
Right.
It's okay. So I was like, but I have to get back to work. So I've got a boot, painkillers, and I was off to the races.
And in your mind, you were thinking, this is manageable because it's prescribed to me, and I'm being able to still go to work and handle my two different lifestyles, my family and business, and then also my drug habit.
Yeah. So, and that's when things started going off into the using pills.
Rabbit hole,
yeah. And then I found the guy that was my supplier, and he was Endless Supplies.
And like you said, then, in that using and your supplier became that 6-month interval of trying to do better. And then we as a family were,
Yeah, it's like this. Instead of a straight line, it's like this when you're using. You have moments of clarity, and then boom, straight down. And it's just like it lasts for 6 months. And I kept trying to do it. Try to go back to doing some recovery, going to meetings. But I wound up just back to using and doing, exactly what I would normally do. And I would tell myself, I need, this is the last time. But then there's always one more. And then
tried Suboxone, you tried
everything.
But then the real cutoff for you became when 2017 hit. 2017,
I was running a business illegally. I was trying to run a drywall company with somebody else's license that wasn't legit. So the guy called the state on me, another drywall company called the state. And that's when things started to change, is when I got the books, because for one thing, he told me that I'll never be anything else. I'm a felon, that I have a past, so they're not going to accept me.
And you'll never amount to something that they would accept, right?
Yeah, because I have a past. Right. My past is the reason I will not be accepted by the state to be a contractor. And so I almost believed them, but I didn't. I got the books. I studied 2 months. We actually went on vacation. When I got back, I took the test, and I passed. I passed January 6th. Actually, it just popped up in my Facebook memories that I passed, and I was like, it's a huge acclichment.
After passing, you still had to wait.
Yeah, I still had to wait for them to approve me. I had to turn in the application for the license, and then my whole history.
So the application of the license to actually apply, you had to tell them your entire history and why you're a felon.
Yep, fingerprints, all that. So,
once you turn that application in,
that's when the party upstairs started. And I was like, I pretty much made the decision for them that I wasn't going to be approved. And from there till my clean date's March 16th, 2018. The end of February is when they accepted me. I was like, man, I have to change my life around right now. And if I don't, I'll never get a second chance, because somebody accepted me for my past. They're accepting me for what it is. They know about it. And it was.
They're giving me a second chance.
It's a second chance to give me.
Different.
Yeah. So I ran with it. I checked myself in the daycare. I put myself back in recovery. My best friends, I reached out to them because they were doing it. And I was like, man, I need to do something different. So I did 90 meetings, 90 days. I got a sponsor. I did step work. I threw myself into recovery. I did the Baycare. I did 4 months of that because it gives you a little bit of accountability while you're doing other things too. So, every little bit of accountability so you don't use is so much better than, especially early.
Like you said, you threw yourself into it. You changed everything you were doing and created new habits by going to these meetings, changing the people you were hanging out with. You changed your phone number. You changed the roads that you drove on to make sure, there was no old habits going to creep in.
Yeah. It was people, places, and things. That's what screws us up. There's a lot of things I've learned about myself in recovery. Recovery let me find out who I was, why I did what I did.
And what you could do to change those.
Yeah. And there's and it's a lot of accepting the fact that I had to accept the fact that I'm alcoholic because I'm like, oh, why can't I hang out with my boys and have a beer?
Right.
Well, because I don't just have a beer. It's not just one.
It doesn't stop there.
It doesn't stop. It's when the party does not end for me.
Right.
So
you accept that you're an alcoholic, yeah.
I had to accept it. So, and that's one thing that I never did was accept that fact. I accepted the fact that I'm a drug addict, but alcohol is a drug too.
Right.
And as soon as you accept that, that it's an addiction, all inclusive.
Right.
All inclusive. So I accepted the fact that I was. I believed I was powerless and I needed to change my life. And that's when things started happening. My life today is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was, I didn't think I would ever reach this point in my life and have a successful life.
So in your recovery, March 16th, 2018 is your clean date. We're here today, coming up on March 2021. That's almost 3 years. In those 3 years of recovery, what would you say is some of your favorite things?
What, accomplishments?
Yeah.
All right. So, it's crazy. 3 years flies. The beginning was straight up recovery. I was just nonstop throwing myself in recovery. But in the meantime, I was building a business as well. Like I didn't have the two careers. You have your drug addiction career, and then you have your life, right? Now that you take those out, you can start doing more things, right? Mm-hmm. And in 2018, right after I got clean, I bought a box truck, a nice box truck, not those raggedy ones that I was driving. I went to Miami, learned a new trade. I learned Venetian plaster because then you can figure out what you like, what you're into. You can do new things as soon as you start recovering, and then my business is legit. I run a successful, legit business. It's not exactly where I think it should be. It's not, and sometimes I can get wound up with the reality of somebody else. Somebody else's reality is not my reality. Like I have to see my reality and what I want to do with my life. And sometimes that's where that circus in your head can come into play and really make you think that you're not successful, but I am successful. And then also this past year, 2020, February 2nd, 2020, we got married. Right. We've worked on a relationship so much that it was just time to get married. And I never thought I would be married in my life. I've never been married before, but here we are. It was a beautiful wedding. And then we bought our first house. I never thought in my life that I would actually say I'm a homeowner. Never thought I'd say I'd be married. We have a great life.
Right. Because of recovery, because of making those changes, going to meetings, finding yourself a sponsor and staying plugged in and involved with your recovery, has given us this life together. And so that's why we're here. And
it's not just a one-time deal. It's a maintenance thing. And this past year, actually, I learned that. I started doing new things, reaching out with people and kind of put my recovery on the back burner. And it really affected me. And I didn't understand that's what was affecting me. So the end of last year, it's like, I wasn't being grateful. It's something we have to practice is being grateful for what our life is. And I kind of got into a depression, anxiety. I had a lot of it. And so I had to really start honing in on why. It doesn't just, when we start removing the drugs and alcohol, that's not a solution to our problems anymore. Our solutions are now, what's my problem and how can I fix it? And that's where it boils down to.
So, I mean, I know the biggest thing for us and why we're here telling the story and why the Hope Shot is becoming, a channel here for us is because at the end of last year, again, an experience came up where somebody was trying to use your past against you as like a hammer to knock you down. And you
A
were
weapon.
like, I'm not going to let my past be used as something to put me in a shame and guilt season of fear, so
That's another thing that I think deep, like, I couldn't see that affected me, but it did. And they're using my past and that same shame and guilt that came up of the person that I'm running away from, that I'm using it now to tell you my story, so it can be used from a negative to a positive, because anybody can dig up dirt on you, but they don't see the success that you've done, the person you are today. I do the next right thing. I live by honor. I'm a man of integrity. I do not do the selfish, most of the time, things that I used to do,
Right.
I've worked on myself.
Addiction to success. Everybody wants to talk about successful people, and a lot of us, there are many of us who have stories of the past and then steps that we took to recover and to be successful and not live that way. And we don't have to be shameful of that person. We all make mistakes and we learn from them and we move forward from them and we change what we were doing to be successful. And so
Yeah, and just because you're in it today doesn't mean it has to be your forever.
right.
It can happen. If it happened for me, it can happen for you. It can happen for anyone. And we're living proof that miracles happen all the time. And we have a lot of episodes coming up here in the near future that are going to show you just how other people have done it too, their success. And we hope that this is the Hope Shot, that this is going to help you or a loved one see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that you can come out of your addiction and live a successful life, that you don't have to be stuck in the lies that you tell yourself or what you believe or your past. You're not stuck.
So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications. Next episode will be me sharing my story, Addiction to Success.